They don't want to be with you anymore, but somehow they still don't leave your life. They don't show up as a partner, but they show up just enough to keep interfering. They disappear for weeks. No messages, no presents, nothing. And then one day, they show up like nothing happened. No explanation, no accountability, just presence. Sometimes through a message, sometimes through someone else, sometimes using the only thing they know will reach you, your children. And that's when something inside you starts to feel off, because it's not love, it's not care. If it was, they would show up consistently, they would communicate, they would take responsibility, but they don't. They come and go only when it's convenient for them. And that's the part no one prepares you for. You think that once they're gone, you'll finally feel free. But that's not what happens. Because they don't need to be in your life anymore to still control how you feel. And you start noticing it in small moments, the way something reminds you of them. And suddenly your whole mood shifts. The way you hesitate before making a decision, as if their voice is still there, somewhere in the background. And that's when it hits you. They didn't just leave the relationship, they stayed in your mind. And the worst part isn't even their absence. It's the way they come back, as if nothing ever happened, as if they didn't disappear, as if they didn't hurt you, as if you're supposed to just accept it. And if you don't, you're the problem. You're too much. You're difficult. You're overreacting. So now you're stuck in something that doesn't even have a name anymore. It's not a relationship, but it's also not over. And that's what drains you, because you're trying to move on, but something keeps pulling you back into the same cycle. Not because you want it, but because they don't fully let you go. And the truth is, they're not doing this because they miss you. They're doing this for a completely different reason. And this is the part that changes everything. They're not coming back because they love you, and they're not staying away because they've let you go. It's something in between, and that's exactly what keeps you stuck. Because you're trying to understand something that was never meant to be clear. They don't show up in obvious ways. Sometimes they don't even talk to you directly. They go through other people, through your family, through your children, through situations that force some kind of contact. And from the outside, it doesn't look wrong. It looks normal. It looks like coincidence. It looks like they're just around. But the effect on you is never neutral. They're still present without being accountable. They still affect your life without taking any real responsibility for it. And that creates a very specific kind of exhaustion, because you're not being pulled back by love. You're being interrupted. Your peace gets interrupted. Your routine gets interrupted. Your emotional space never feels completely yours again. And at the same time, they're not there enough to build anything real with you. They don't communicate clearly. They don't explain themselves. They don't take ownership of what they've done, but they also don't disappear completely. And that's not an accident, because being completely out of your life would mean losing access. And access is what matters. Access to your attention, access to your reaction, access to your life, or even if it's indirect. And here's where most people get confused, because they're expecting behavior that comes from care, from respect, from emotional responsibility. But that's not what's driving this behavior. So no matter how much you think about it, it never fully makes sense because you're trying to apply logic to something that isn't based on emotional consistency. And this is why some people experience it one way, where the person comes back directly, messages, calls, tries to reconnect, and others experience it differently. No direct contact, no real conversation, but constant indirect presence. And both create the same result. You never feel completely free because something still feels unfinished, even when you've already let go. And that's the trap. Not the person themselves, but the space they continue to occupy without truly being there. And the more you try to understand why they do this, the more energy you lose trying to make sense of something that was never meant to be clear. And the real damage of this is not just what they do, it's what it slowly starts doing to you. And the real damage of this is not just what they do, it's what it slowly starts doing to you. Because at first, you think you're just dealing with a difficult situation, something confusing, something temporary. But over time, it starts changing the way you think, the way you feel, the way you exist in your own life. Because you're constantly adjusting to their absence, adjusting to their presence, adjusting to things that never stay the same. And without realizing it, you stop feeling grounded. You stop feeling in control. Not because they're controlling you directly, but because nothing around you feels stable enough to hold on to. And that instability creates something very subtle, but very powerful. You start living in a state of anticipation, wondering when they'll show up, wondering if they'll interfere, wondering if something is about to happen again. And even when nothing is happening, you're not fully at peace because a part of you is still bracing for impact. And that's exhausting. Not loud exhaustion, but the kind that builds slowly, the kind that drains your energy, your clarity, your emotional strength, without you even noticing when it started. And what makes it even harder is that they don't disappear completely. They show up just enough, not to fix anything, not to take responsibility, just enough to remind you they're still there. And every time that happens, it reopens something inside you that was finally starting to close. So you never fully move on. You just learn to function around the pain. And at some point, it's no longer about them. It's about what this dynamic turned you into. Because you're not reacting to a person anymore. You're reacting to a pattern of unpredictability, a pattern of absence and interruption, a pattern that never fully closes. And the longer it continues, the more disconnected you become from yourself, from your own rhythm, from your own peace, from your own sense of stability. And that's the part no one really talks about. It doesn't just hurt, it slowly reshapes you. And the most confusing part is, they're not even trying anymore. They're not fighting for you. They're not choosing you. But somehow, you're still emotionally tied to them. And you hate that because logically, you know it's over. But emotionally, it still feels unfinished. And that space between what you know and what you feel, that's where the control lives. Until one day, you realize you're constantly tired. Not because of what's happening now, but because of everything that never fully ended. And this is where the real shift begins. Not when you understand them, but when you finally see what this has been doing to you and you realize that the problem was never just their behavior. It was the space they kept occupying without ever truly being present. And the moment you see that clearly, and this is where everything starts to shift. Not when they change, not when they come back, but when you finally see that what you're holding on to is no longer real. It's a pattern, a loop, a psychological attachment that keeps pulling you back to something that already ended. And once you see that, you can't unsee it anymore because now you're no longer trying to understand them. You're starting to protect yourself. And that changes everything because you stop asking, why are they like this? And you start asking, why am I still allowing this to affect me? Where do I need to create boundaries? What do I need to stop engaging with? What do I need to emotionally detach from so I can finally feel free again? And that's when the dynamic loses its power. Not when they disappear, but when they no longer have access to your energy, to your attention, to your emotional space, even if they're still around. And that's the difference between something ending and you actually being free. And if any part of this felt familiar, if you've been dealing with this kind of presence that never fully leaves, then maybe this isn't about them anymore. Maybe this is the moment to start choosing your peace. And if you're trying to understand these patterns, if you're trying to rebuild yourself after something like this, make sure to subscribe. This channel is here to help you reconnect with yourself, set boundaries, and move forward, one step at a time.